So you're going to want to make sure when you measure that you're starting at the beginning of a stitch and you're ending right before the beginning of a new stitch. That one does not count in there, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to actually zoom in on this so that you can see. Move this here. That's zoomed in too much. So hopefully you can see this there. You can see I'm right before my stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here, I'm right before the next stitch. This stitch does not count. It's outside of the 4 inches. But you want to make sure that what you're not doing is counting to the end of a stitch. Because if you count to the end of a stitch, then you're not in your, you don't have the stitches marked out properly. So this space in between also needs to count. So you have stitch, space, 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 stitch, space. You are counting up into where that space ends. So you're not counting that stitch, but you want to make sure that you're properly counting the stitches. And you're going to need to do the same thing with your rows. Another thing I want to show you is I never measure on my outside edges. You always make your swatch bigger than what you need. So this swatch is 8 inches by 6.5 inches for the swatch. You never measure, you never make a 4-inch swatch or a 4-inch square to measure a 4-inch gauge. You always need to make it bigger because your edges and your row ends lie. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of room inside to properly measure your stitches. Okay, same thing with rows. We're going to start at the beginning of the row, and we want to make sure that our measurement, our gauge, is going to count the space after the row and is going to end right at the beginning of another row. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these 8 rows here are all within those 4 inches. So that's how you want to make sure that you measure your gauge.